Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has slammed Russia's war in Ukraine.
Many of Ukraine's most talented young athletes have seen their dreams snatched away as the Russian invasion enters its third year.
An important moment for European space sovereignty. After several years of delays, the Ariane 6 rocket is making its inaugural flight.
Spain beat France 2-1 to reach the Euro 2024 final and aim for a record fourth title.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi met with Russian President Vladimir Putin, telling him about the pain of innocent children dying and the need for peace. The leaders met to deepen ties between their countries, with Modi saying India was ready to support the restoration of peace in Ukraine.
एक्सेलेंसी युद्ध हो, संघर्ष हो, आतंकवादी हमले हो, मानवता में विश्वास करने वाला हर व्यक्ति जब जानहानि होती है तब बहुत पीड़ित होता है, लेकिन उसमें भी जब मासूम बच्चों की कत्ल होती है, मासूम बच्चों को मरते हुए देखते हैं, तब हृदय छलनी हो जाता है और वो दर्द बहुत भयानक होता है.
Modi's comments came a day after a deadly Russian attack in Kyiv, with shelling striking a children's hospital and killing dozens. Russia has had strong ties with India since the Cold War, and New Delhi's importance as a key trading partner has grown in recent times. China and India have become two key buyers of Russian oil following sanctions imposed by the United States and its allies that shut down Western markets off to Russian exports.
UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer's newly minted cabinet met earlier this week at number 10 Downing Street to set the Labour government's 5-year political agenda. Ministers will tackle issues such as boosting a sluggish economy, building more homes and fixing the state-funded health service. The recently appointed cabinet features a record number of public school educated leaders and women. 11 of the 25 are female, such as the high-powered Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner and Home Secretary Yvette Cooper. Metropolitan area mayors also met with Starmer at number 10 Downing Street, as the new Prime Minister is set to establish a council for regions and nations, granting more power to local administrations. According to local press, Starmer said his government would work alongside mayors to support development plans.
Far-left La France Insoumise party lawmakers have rallied outside France's National Assembly, calling for a new prime minister. The party president stood outside the Palais Bourbon, demanding that one of the members of the successful New Popular Front coalition be appointed.
Nous avons gagné les élections législatives. Nous sommes, avec le nouveau Front populaire, aujourd'hui la première force politique à l'Assemblée nationale. C'est l'issue du scrutin de ce dimanche. Et nous exigeons qu'Emmanuel Macron respecte le vote populaire.
Centrist politicians want to also be involved in government.
Personne n'a de majorité à l'Assemblée, aucun bloc, quoi que certains disent. Et les Français nous ont envoyé, à mon sens, un message très clair. Ils n'ont pas voulu donner de majorité absolue à un quelconque groupe politique. Donc ils nous enjoignent de nous entendre, de travailler ensemble, et c'est ce que nous devons faire.
Sunday's French legislative elections left no political faction close to a majority needed to form government. It's aimed at emulating the ancient Eurasian Silk Road trade route. The first regular rail connection joining Poland and China has just begun, strengthening trade not only between the two countries but connecting China and the EU as well.
Wiezie w tej chwili przede wszystkim AGD, wiezie klimatyzatory, wiezie różnego rodzaju drobny sprzęt, ale później z powrotem będzie zabierał również do Chin produkty polskie. Biorąc pod uwagę, że zostały podpisane nowe umowy handlowe związane z transportem kurczaków, To jest istotny element gospodarczy dla Polski, ale również i dla Unii Europejskiej, bo to oznacza, że zacieśniamy współpracę handlową z Chińczykami względem wyrównania bardzo zachwianego wolumenu właśnie handlowego między Polską i Chinami, gdzie Chińczycy są dla nas drugim krajem pod względem gospodarczym współpracy handlowej. My zaś dla Chińczyków w tej chwili jesteśmy mało istotnym krajem, który niewiele co wywozi do Chin i sprzedaje tam dalej. Istotnym elementem jest Polska właśnie dla Unii Europejskiej w połączeniu szlaku jedwabnego.
The establishment of the regular railroad connection will boost imports to both Poland and the EU, as well as to China.
We watched the Euro 2024 and a lot of companies who are actually the sponsor of this event are the companies from China. So it shows us something. I think it shows us something very interesting that the Chinese companies are planning to develop in the European market, and certainly Poland will not be the center of this process. I think there will be other countries which will try to attract the investors from China, especially Hungary, but I think also Italy, Spain. Poland is just a part of this process. And if we are between Germany and China, I think that's the good opportunity to make a business.
Despite the controversy that surrounds relations with China, which maintains relations with Russia, trade exchanges are tightening. However, Poland's tensions with Belarus could prove to be a problem. The Polish government does not rule out a complete closure of borders with its eastern neighbor if the migration crisis continues to grow. Magdalena Hodownik for Euronews from Warsaw.
Many of Ukraine's most talented young athletes have seen their dreams snatched away as the Russian invasion enters its third year. When Alexandra Pascal first took to the gymnastics mat, her coach saw nothing but potential.
Я стать хочу олимпийской чемпионкой.
Then a Russian missile crushed her house in Odessa, burying her beneath debris and severing her left leg. Now aged 8, Alexandra dreams of competing at the Paralympics. Her coach prides herself on her ability to spot future talent in the sport, but she says it is increasingly clear that the Russian invasion of Ukraine is destroying the nation's sport culture.
Міняють свій режим харчування у зв'язку з тим, що ночі вони практично не сплять. Їм приходиться спускатися до укриттів. І на сьогодні в мене першочергова задача – це не результат високих досягнень в спорті, а на сьогодні для мене дуже важливо зберегти здоров'я психічне та фізичне наших дітей.
It takes a decade and a national infrastructure of training facilities, feeder schools, equipment and coaches to nurture an Olympic champion. A process that begins in early childhood weeds out most contenders long before they reach the games.
Зрозуміло, що для них це ще більше ускладнює там цей процес. Коли ти прийшов на тренування з мамою, потім прозвучала повітряна тривога, навряд чи ти лишишся ще на годину для того, щоб продовжити тренування. І це не стимулює до постійних занять. Зрозуміло.
Young athletes have been deprived of opportunities to train as their coaches joined the army or fled abroad. Those who remain face challenging conditions. The disaster wrought by the conflict means some children may never begin to discover their potential.
Spain have beaten France 2-1 to reach the Euro 2024 final in Berlin and stay on course for a record fourth title. It was a tough start for La Roja as they went down after only 9 minutes. Spain's Lamine Yamal leveled it in the 21st minute with a stunning shot that made him the youngest scorer in the tournament's history at the age of 16. 4 minutes later, his teammate Dani Olmo put Spain in front after snagging a ball in the penalty area to slam it towards the low corner. The game was interrupted in the second half as a man stormed the pitch in the attempt of taking a selfie with Mbappé. But France failed to get dangerous as Spain cruised towards the final whistle, accompanied by the public's Olé. They will play England or the Netherlands in the final on Sunday.
An important moment for European space sovereignty. After several years of delays, the Ariane 6 rocket is making its inaugural flight. Since the retirement of Ariane 5 a year ago, Europe had been unable to put satellites into orbit. The pandemic, the war in Ukraine, and various technical problems delayed Ariane 6's completion and plunged Europe into a space crisis.
Europe again gets access to space. We did not have it for 1 year, and this is why last year I called the launcher crisis, just to make everyone aware how important it is to have access to space, to have data from our satellites on which we depend every single day, and this is fundamental for Europe.
Delays have led companies like the European Weather Satellite Organization to choose Elon Musk's private company, SpaceX, a competitor of the European Space Agency, to launch one of its weather prediction devices. The Director General of EU Metsat, Phil Evans, said the decision to use SpaceX was a result of exceptional circumstances and that they will continue to support their European partners. Despite this first setback, the future of Ariane 6 already has up to 30 orders, 18 of them which are the Amazon Kuiper's constellations. According to analysts, the launch is a first step in Europe's space strategy.
The launcher at the end of the day is a means to an end, and the end is really increasing our ambition in using space, and using space obviously to the benefit of European citizens and European policymakers.
Ariane 6 is the first new European model in 30 years. 13 European countries were involved in its development, and it cost €4 billion.